Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the London Food Network podcast, the show where you sit down with real business owners, makers, and creators who've built something brilliant through sheer determination, grit, and passion. Today, I'm joined by Adam from Offset Cider Works, a brand that's redefining what great cider should taste like. Based out of Washington State, Offset is all about authentic craft, creativity, and doing things differently. We'll dive into Adam's journey for the first batch to scaling production, finding their niche, and navigating the challenges of running a craft beverage brand in a very competitive market. This episode is brought to you by Embrace AI Consultancy, helping businesses streamline sales, marketing, and operations through smart AI automation. So, without further ado, let's talk to Adam, bring you in. So, Adam, tell us about who you are, what you are, and plug yourself in as much as possible.
All right. I'm Adam Pinkham, founder, owner of Offset Cider Works. I've been in business for a little over 3 years. Started it in my house and, kind of took the journey of um, raising capital and, writing a business plan, product development, basically starting it from nothing. My background is avid home brewer for a while. Then I used to brew beer for a brewery in Seattle called Two Beers Brewing. I think I actually am drinking out of their mug right now. But they no longer exist, unfortunately. But they're also part
Shame.
of it's sad. They're also part of Seattle Cider. So that was kind of like my first introductory to like dry craft cider, and that was back in like 2014, 17-ish, somewhere around there. And then so I that's where I got my experience, my background in production level. And then I always wanted to open a brewery, but saw how saturated the market was. Here in the Northwest, at least, it's really saturated. But I still wanted to use my creativity, my experience, start something in this field. And so cider seemed to be the kind of the next best option for me. And so then I kind of started on the path of doing that. Like I said, I was bartending at the time and writing a business plan, doing product development, getting the brand created, trying to differentiate, trying to figure out, what's my niche, what's going to be different about us, see if there's even a market for a new cider company. Why is the Northwest a great spot for it? Just basically all the ins and outs, SWOT analysis, then running financial projections, seeing, when there'd be a return on your investment, if you're getting investors, and just trying to get all my ducks in a row as much as possible before launching. And so yeah, I started that journey. I filed the LLC of October 2018. So it took me about 4 years to get up and running, and then I've been in business for 3 years. You know, I think there's a few things that it took a while to raise capital. One is my first time doing it, so trying to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars is it's a craft, and it takes learning.
Wow. How much did you raise?
When I say hundreds of thousands, it makes it sound big baller, but I raised a decent number, in total around like 400,000.
Really? That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot for a startup in a very competitive market.
Yeah. So it took me a while, and part of that was I had a pretty bad hand injury making cider at my house. Like a glass fermenter shattered when I was like cleaning it, and it cut my wrist open. And
Shit.
yeah, that was like the start of my cider
Wow.
experience. Yeah, that was like one of the first ciders I was making. And so I was even at that point like, should I even do this? Can I use my hand? Because
Wow.
the doctor was telling me like, "Oh, you need to go see a therapist. Like you need emergency surgery. We don't even know if we can fix your hand because it cut my ulnar nerve, my tendons, and I
Okay,
lost
right.
feeling in like half my hand. And you need your hands. You need your hands to for a craft, right? Whenever you're
Yeah,
making something. So I was like devastated. I lost my job. I didn't have any insurance.
man.
Yeah, I was in a world of hurt, and I was relying on friends and family for support, like financially and just from a relationship standpoint. And so, anyways, it was that was a tough start. And so, but I think part of that also really taught me to like. I was like, man, if I can make it through this, I feel like I can make it through quite a bit, just because of like the mental state.
Yeah,
When
I
you're,
can imagine,
you're
man. I
yeah,
can
we're at
imagine.
like you're at an all-time low.
Yeah.
I'm 38 now. I was 31 and I kind of had a rough like transition from leaving where I was at the brewery to trying to figure out what my next steps were. And I thought I was going to go be a head brewer somewhere else. And then that fell through. And yeah, then I basically was in no man's land for like a year. So, like, the year leading up to me, like, starting this journey, I was already kind of like struggling, trying to figure out like what do I want to do. And then I got really excited because I landed this bartending job, which I liked. And then I was like, cool, I'm starting this cider company. So I felt like I had a clear vision and path as far as where I was
Yeah.
going to go with my life. And and then and then that happened, and then I was like down in the dumps again. So I was it was a rough start, and then I it took I think took about 6 to 8 months to heal total. But I kept like doing what I could, so I was still writing the business plan like through a speaker and stuff like that,
Wow.
and doing research, and then and still working on the branding and stuff like that. But it was kind of hard because I didn't have income coming in, and that's how I was paying for a lot of this stuff to like get up and running, like I was paying for the cider, I was paying for the branding, I was paying for a lot of stuff. I had a cider consultant that I hired that was a buddy of mine that's opened multiple cideries. So I hired him, and then I was like, I couldn't pay him. So yeah, that was challenging. And then I healed and I kept pursuing. I had my business plan pretty much done at that point. And so then I started going out pitching, and then and then COVID happened. And then that was
Wow.
another setback. I could have been worse though, like I could have opened and then COVID could have happened.
Yeah. Right.
So like,
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of dodged a bullet in that sense, but it was definitely like one setback after another. And I was kind of at the point where I was like, man, is this ever going to happen? Like, and I was controlling as much as I could control, but it was challenging. And so then I was kind of at the point of like year two, year three, maybe. And I had raised like maybe half the money that I needed. And the goal was, and I think I was under budget now looking back, but the goal was to like raise capital and then have enough for a production facility, whether it's like a turnkey or maybe build out a small production or something. But, at this point, I'd already been working on it for 2 to 3 years, and I was like, all right, we got to get something going. So I decided to pivot and go the co-packaging route, and instead of doing a full build out. And so then I was able to launch with the money I had, and then kind of gaining some traction in the market and showing proof of concept. People got really excited. And so raising the second half was like really easy compared to the first half,
Nice. Nice.
because people could like see that like, oh wow, it's actually real,
Yeah. Yeah.
versus like versus me just telling them, hey, I got this cool cider idea. So yeah, that was kind of that was like the start, and that's how I ended up co-packaging, even though that wasn't really the original plan. But as you know, business, you're always, I gotta pivot.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You can kind of have the same vision and goal in mind, but there's still room for pivoting left or right depending on what makes sense. So um anyways, oh, this is Rocky.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
He's just in the road doing sales and deliveries, holding down the fort. Yeah. See ya. See ya. So yeah, that's kind of like the start of all of it.
Wow, man. That's a hell of a start, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, that's probably more than yeah, I kind of just threw it all out there, but yeah, it was a challenge, but I mean, business is challenging. I do it plenty
yeah.
of
You know what? Unfortunately, the best lessons are always learned through the shittiest times, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
if you're positive about it and you continue, because a lot of people would have given up. In all honesty, a lot of people would have
Yeah,
given up, and they would have blamed everything around them for why they didn't do it. But here you are. Despite all of that, you've used it as fuel to get you to where you are, and I think that's really cool, man. You should.
yeah.
I hope you realize that you've done a great job, and you should be proud, because I think
Thank you.
too many people talk about business. You see it all the time, right? Everybody has a great idea. Everybody's got the best next thing, and
Right.
everyone's got the best advice for you, etc., etc. But no one actually does what it takes to set up a business, or very little of us actually do that. And it's extremely taxing in all
Yeah.
aspects of your life, right? Whether it's your personal life, health, I mean, everything. And I think, to persevere and push through and here we are having this conversation, right? We've both been through it.
Yeah, oh man, I can't yeah, I mean, you've been in business a lot longer than me. I mean, if I feel like the stuff I've been through in this short period, I'm like, I can't imagine the stuff you've been through, man. It's insane.
Similar.
No
Similar.
one really
Yeah.
understands, I don't think, until you go through it, and you don't expect anyone to. Like, I'll never know what it's like to be a doctor. Like, I just, you know what I mean? So until you like go through it, but it is kind of like what you said though in the beginning of your intro, like, grit and determination. Honestly, I think I would take that over most skill sets. And I consider that a skill set because it's, I think showing up every day and giving your all is a skill set, and
Absolutely, man. Like, people rely on motivation too much, and motivation is like feelings that come and go, but it's only the discipline, man, because, I don't feel like doing this today. Well, then, you're not going to have a business.
yeah, trust me, there's a lot of days I don't feel like doing a lot. And I'm like, yeah, if I went on feelings and if you went on feelings, it's like nothing would get done. It's like, because I tell you, man, like I'm feeling it even right now. I'm just like my back hurts, my knees hurt, my
Yeah, man.
I'm like stressed, and but that's just the name of the game. So
It is. And the thing is, man, you will get to a point where, your ducks are all lined up. You got a good team. You got enough, structure. You got enough money coming in. You got enough clients that are reliable. They pay their bills. You've got enough systems in place. You know what I mean? It takes time to develop that.
yeah,
Unless you've got millions and millions of dollars to put into it, and you can afford to hire in all these kind of like management and systems and all the right machinery, all these things. You got to do it from the ground up, and that just takes an amount of time.
yeah, and I think that's key too is time. I think especially in this day and age, everyone kind of wants stuff to happen real fast, and
Yeah, right.
I think even, yeah, I mean, who doesn't, right? Like, I'm not saying I don't. Like, I would love for this to snap my fingers and be where I want to be, but that's just not reality. And I think sometimes it's just like, it's just a matter of putting in the time. And, it's like if you don't see results right away, it doesn't necessarily mean like, it could mean you're doing the wrong thing, but honestly, sometimes you're probably doing the right thing. You just got to give it more time, because it just takes a while.
It does take a while. And I think,
Yeah.
especially when you're doing something that you're passionate about and you pride yourself in quality, service, it's much harder this path because it just takes longer.
Yeah.
It's easy to do volume. It's easy to do, all these other things to grow and scale quickly. But then you lose that element of, I don't know, soul, if you like, that you've put into that product. You know what I mean? It takes time to build a business sustainably based on quality, authenticity, and kind of like keeping that ethos.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I think I haven't done a lot of things too great. I've done some things great, but one of the things I felt like I did do well was I was pretty transparent with my investors, telling them, "Hey, this is a long-term investment. This isn't a stock, this isn't a tech company. Like, I'm not trying to just get in, get out, sell high. Like, I'm trying to create a really strong brand, and I feel like that takes building a solid foundation, which takes time. And I want this thing to last a while, and for us to just be, reaping the benefits for years, not just kind of like, hey, let's see how fast and quick we can turn and burn and grow and sell. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was like, I feel like if anyone's out there who's, pitching, I would say just, if that's your intention, then great. Just be upfront and honest about it. But if it's not, like, and there's people that are saying, you can tell that that's what they want. Like, it's hard to say turn down money, but trust me, like, you don't, I feel fortunate that a lot of my investors, or if not all of them, are pretty patient, and no one's really like, been like, "Hey, what," but I keep them in the loop, but yeah, I think that's just important. I know that's kind of off on a
Yeah,
tangent,
yeah, yeah.
but it's
No,
like
not at all.
it's
Not at all. I think
good.
managing expectations is pivotal. That's
Yeah,
good for
just
everyone. Your suppliers, your clients, your staff.
yeah,
is managing the expectations. Is I hate the over promising, under delivering. I'd
Uh,
rather, you know what I mean? I'd rather try and focus on under promising and over delivering, and
absolutely.
I think that's what creates also respect, trust, and
Yeah.
it builds relationships that are stronger and longer lasting.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
more difficult path, absolutely, but I think
Yeah.
it's the best path to follow. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And what's your kind of like, you've done your business plan, you've created your business, and you're 3 years in now. How does that look like? When you initially set out and your plans, are you on target? Are you behind? Are you ahead? What
Yeah.
kind of challenges have you had?
Sorry, what was that last part?
What kind of challenges have you had?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say, I would say I'm on like on the right path or about where I thought I'd be in terms of like parts of the business plan. So like the business plan I had was based off of, doing production in-house and then having a taste room in the production facility and then also self-distributing until you get big enough and then get on with the distributor. So my projections were based off of that kind of business model. I tweaked it a little bit once I kind of knew I was going to go the co-packaging route, but for most of the part when I was pitching to people, that was kind of the vision. And that's still honestly, that's still the goal. So I think it was, that's still the goal. But with that business model, obviously I accounted for inventory that was coming in from the tasting room and also, wholesale distribution and stuff like that. So I had two revenue streams versus one. So, we're down in the sense of my projections because I was accounting for two types of
Well,
revenue
when you say
streams.
tasting room, do you mean like a tap room, as in a place for people to come and
Yeah.
drink?
Yeah. Yeah. The reason why I haven't done that is because, with co-packaging, your minimums are pretty big. And so I only have so much space to store all the product. And then also because we do wholesale and distribution in kegs, I've spent a ton of money on cooperage, kegs and stuff like that used because you need enough for one batch and then you need to have double the amount for backup so you can get the next batch going while that's out in the market. So that's just for one flavor. So then you do two flavors, now you need to have, twice as many. So I have
Yeah,
like 500 kegs in with co-packaging that really only allows you enough capacity to do just like two SKUs, maybe three, but like then you need to invest more in kegs because you need you know what I mean? And so, but then you need more warehouse space. And so the point is like having a tasting room when you're co-packaging is really challenging unless you have a co-packer that's willing to do smaller minimums
yeah,
and willing to do a lot more flavors more frequently. But most of the time, you're not top priority because either they're doing it themselves or they have other customers.
of
And
course.
so their guidelines are pretty limiting in the sense of like, you can't just say, hey, I want five different SKUs this batch. And you know what I mean? So for me, I didn't feel like would be very attractive to have a tasting room with just one to two SKUs,
Yeah,
one
of
to two
course not.
flavors. And so, and then there's also I've tossed around the idea of like doing a tasting room where it's like, okay, we have a few of our flavors and then we have a bunch of local craft ciders and kind of just be like a cider house. That's been a thought of mine as well. And, but yeah, I just kind of, it's definitely something I want to do, but I really want to, if I'm going to do it, I want to make sure it's done right. And I feel
Yeah, of
like
course.
the draw for my fans and the people that like Offset is our cider. And I think we have a bunch of cool, unique flavors that aren't even on the market. And so I think once I can transition from co-packaging to doing things in-house, I'll be able to then come out with all these flavors and then I can think about doing a tasting room
Yeah,
and really capitalize on that opportunity versus right now if I do it, I just don't think it'll be to my standard. It won't be what I really want. And so it's kind of been put on the back burner for now. So that's one of the reasons. But as far as distribution, our numbers are actually pretty close to what we projected, which is nice. So yeah, I guess we're like less than what I projected, but that was based off a different business model, but based off of wholesale and distribution, we're pretty close to what we
nice.
thought. So that's encouraging. And just with two people, it's quite a bit of work. But yeah, and I guess challenges. Yeah, the challenges are just like, I'd say like the dealing with the lead times, wanting to make changes for your company that maybe um, they don't align with the co-packagers, what they allow and don't allow. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you want to make a change or you want to do a different flavor, and sometimes there's some logistical things or there's some challenges that come with that, and so there'll be some
Mhm.
pushback, and so that's frustrating when you own your own company but you feel like you can't even make the decisions you need to make that's
Yeah,
best.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I think that's been a real challenge. The lead times are really long. I've had quality control issues where because the batches are pretty big, it's like you get that batch and now you're just sitting on a ton of inventory that isn't good, and now you're in a really tough spot. A challenge with co-packaging as well has been just the amount of shipping I spend,
yeah,
just
yeah.
so and then obviously the obvious one is it's more expensive because you're outsourcing, right? So you're so,
But where
so-
where do you need to be? Like how much more revenue do you need to kind of take in order to kind of either have more kind of proven track record to get more funding, or just enough of your own revenue to finish off your own production? Like, where's that North Star?
yeah, that's a good question.
Mhm.
I'm kind of in a tough spot. Again, this is my first time doing it, raising capital, launching. I think I kind of handcuffed myself in the sense of a lot of the investors when I was pitching to them, concern of theirs was dilution of their shares and equity. And so a part of the agreement was, hey, if they're going to give me money, I can't just issue more shares and dilute everyone's shares, which is, I understand where they're coming from. And so me just trying to get this thing off the ground, there's a little give and take, right? I have the clout or the experience to say, oh no, I've been here, I've done this, I know what I'm doing. So like I'll just go find someone else that, doesn't that wants the terms I want. So because of that, I sold off the 6% of the company. And so obviously I don't want to go below 40, 40, or I don't want to go below 51%. And so that leaves me about 14% of like wiggle room. But the issue that I have right now is that if I sell the equity I have to get to that 51%, it's at the valuation that we're at. It's not enough for me to build out a production facility. So right now
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of have to,
yeah, yeah. Keep
uh,
hold of it. Yeah,
yeah, I
absolutely.
kind of just have to hold steady and just keep growth. I mean, last year we grew 68%. This year
Wow.
we're growing. We might grow just about the same, So like, it's like okay, it's working, and so we might just have to stay steady and just keep on this path until the valuation can
Yeah, yeah,
increase, and then I can actually turn that 14% into a lot more versus right now it's just I could raise not a sum, but not what I need. And so, yeah, I'm kind of in a tough situation right now because I don't want to go below 51%, but having our own production would really help a lot as far as having autonomy and control over the company and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Well, it sounds like you just simply need more revenue, really. Just more revenue will also give you a bit more leverage to actually go back to your own investors and say, listen, you know, revenue's
Yeah,
good. This is what we're doing. Put some more money in, because you putting in that money is going to obviously give you a better return
right,
because this tap room is going to be significant to your
right.
kind of margins. Because also then you're dealing with retail. If you're getting clients in to drink there, your margin is going to be significantly higher,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I know.
right?
Yeah, it'll
And
be
if
a
you're
lot. It'll
making
be
it
a lot
yourself,
better. I know.
and then you don't have
Yeah,
these problems you're having, you can control production, you can have all your flavors. So I'm sure your investors, man, they're not stupid. I'm sure they understand the value of putting in more money. All you've got to do is just generate enough
right,
revenue to
right,
then say, listen, like we need to kind of go back to the table and say, right, this is the money I need. This is a
right,
projection based on that money going there, how much it's going to bring in. And
right.
I'm sure they're going to prefer to put more money in than you seeking other investors into the business for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And so you're totally right. Yeah, luckily felt like I built a good rapport, because I sent quarterly, reports to them and newsletters, just kind of keeping them in the loop. Hey, this is the growth. This is how we're doing, and then obviously the end of the year, they get all their tax stuff. And so in another report that I make. And so I feel like because I'm transparent and open and honest and in communication with them, I've been able to build that trust even more.
Nice.
And so
Nice.
I do feel like when I'm in a spot where I'm ready to kind of like make some moves and take that next step, I think I could definitely go back to the investors I have, because they've been nothing but really great and supportive, which I feel fortunate, because you never know.
Well, man, you just need to tell them that story you told me about your hand and all these challenges you had in the beginning.
Yeah, I know, right? Be
This is me
like, yeah,
before, this is me now.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
if anyone can do it, I can.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is me with one hand. This is me with two
Yeah,
hands. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. So
Nice. And what so you obviously deal with so you do kegs, right? So you don't do any retail cans or bottles?
we do cans. We just don't have
Okay.
like our own tasting room. So we sell to grocery stores, bottle
Yeah, I was about to
shops.
say. So you sell to grocery stores and food service, like restaurants and
Yeah,
bars.
yeah. It's I just feel like it works in a symbiotic relationship, right? Like they go to the bar, they're like, oh, this is really good. Then they see you in the store, or
Yeah.
vice versa. And so I feel like it's important, even though the margins on package isn't very good because you're paying for labels and aluminum and all that, but I think it's important. It's like, if it's summertime and people want your cider, like they're not going to come buy a keg from you. They want to grab like a 4-pack or a 6-pack and go to the beach or something. So
Yeah, there's a different kind of thing altogether, but it's very good for brand awareness. I think the retail sector, it
yeah,
gets the name out much more than the cake into a bar. It does. So it's nice to have both, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
They,
yeah.
they complement each other quite a lot, right? Nice. And how do you grow? Like what do you do? How many of you are there in the business? And sure, how do you split your time and how do you grow the business?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's two of us right now. Rocky, who you just
Hmm.
met and left, she is sales and delivery. So some days it's more deliveries if I'm busy, doing stuff like to grow the company, meetings or doing admin work or doing events or doing tastings or whatever. I'm also doing a ton of deliveries and sales. Most of the time, I try and take deliveries so that she can focus on sales, because um, I've been able to, I just have a little bit more experience, and also it's a lot easier, I think, for me to sell because it's my business. I'm able to kind of do both at the same time. So most of the time, it's us just conquering, dividing, going out there, and we both have our own vans. So like this year, I got a second van, and so that's already helped tremendously because I was reimbursing her for mileage and stuff, and because we do self distro, like we're all over the place. Like she doesn't really have a designated territory because we have to be flexible. And
Mhm.
sometimes I need her to head south, or sometimes she needs to go north. It's just kind of like whatever the day calls for, and whether or not I have the time to do that. So we're not really traditionally set up, I'd say, like other brands, in the sense of I know a lot of other breweries and cideries, they have sales reps who have like territories,
Yeah, of course.
but because we're doing our deliveries, we kind of conquer and divide. So that's the way we try and grow and expand, is we go out and we both try and hit at least 10 new spots a day. If we don't have a lot of deliveries, you can get 15 to 20 new spots, and we try and just fit that in. So say if we're going to a delivery and we see, a spot we've been trying to hit up,
Of
we'll just
course.
pop in there real quick. We bring our sales sheets, which have all the information, pricing. We drop off samples, we introduce ourselves, and then we get contact information, and then we follow up the following week. So if we go out, Monday through Friday, then the following Monday, we'll follow up and say, hey, we just dropped in last week, just wanted to follow up. Here's our contact information. And then I add them to our mailing list and our email list. And then I send out weekly or every other week, like a fresh sheet, which just says like what products we have available, so any kind of new seasonals. And so I think it's just constantly, and then we go in and we'll revisit those same spots in person again within like a 2, maybe 3 week period, but we don't want to revisit too long because sometimes, they see so many people and they'll forget. So to really
Yeah.
like maximize your opportunities, I found that it's really nice to go back like a week or 2 weeks at the most to just to reintroduce yourself, because a lot of times they forget. And so yeah, we go through quite a few samples because we hand out samples all the time, but we're strategic with who we hand them out to. I mean, sometimes you gotta just leave them with whoever's there, but most of the time it's we try and hand them off to like a bar manager or a GM or a bartender, someone that might have some say or some pull. And then we try and leave with some contact information. In the past, when I wasn't so focused on getting contact information, I just noticed like my conversion rate wasn't as good. And so making sure that we get that is like super important. And you can get it. We try and do prep work as well before we go in. And so we'll just look on social media, look on their website, just see if there's some kind of generic email or contact. And then when we're in there, we'll try and get like the actual contact of the buyer. But then that way it's kind of like a safety net in case we can't get any information. At least we got something, So I just found it's really important to make sure that you get some contact information. But I also think it's really important that you follow up and you have multiple touch points. So,
Yeah.
the email is a touch point, going back in person is a touch point,
Yeah.
and then revisiting again as a touch point. And then also just not making it a sales pitch, just going in and being like, hey, what's up? I got some cider samples. You guys cool if I drop them off with you, and then I talk with them, and my whole goal is to try and figure out how I can solve their problem. So, if they're concerned about working with a self distributor, I point them to a big list that we have on the back of our sales sheet. And I say, well, we have over 200 accounts. Like, we can meet demand, or we pride ourselves on customer service. And, here are some big accounts that we have that trust us, that we've been working with for 3 years. So I try and just build that trust that like, hey, I understand, so that's kind of how we go about it. It's very like door to door, kind of grassroots. And, but honestly, it kind of it gives us a little bit of a competitive advantage over some of the companies that work with distributors because, we get to tell our story and we get to talk more about the product. A lot of times when you get on with a distributor, unless you're a really well-known brand, you can sometimes get lost in the shuffle a little bit. And I feel like, this isn't a knock on sales reps for distributors, but they have so many accounts that they have that, it's easy to kind of slip through the cracks. And sometimes you're not top priority, especially if you're small. And so, that's kind of been another reason why I haven't wanted to get on with the distributor quite yet, is because I really want to build the brand first so that we have a really strong reputation, so that when we do get on with the distributor, they see the value in us, and versus like, us just desperate and needing them to do sales.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
no, this is what we're coming to the table with. We have X amount of revenue we generate in sales and accounts and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how we do it. And then we also grow the brand by just doing a ton of cider and beer events. So we try and say yes to as many as we can, and those are typically on weekends. So it's just anytime
Got it.
you can get exposure. Like I just did a tasting at a grocery store last Friday. I got a few more lined up at some grocery stores, and they're usually, I mean, our conversion rate's really high once the people try the product and they meet me. And so, you know, it's you're not it's not like huge sales, but I think it's really important just to, especially in like new retail accounts, it really helps move the product, And so yeah, I think just doing events, doing tastings, and just trying to go to as many accounts as possible And then just making sure that you're following up is kind of like our approach, and it seems to be working pretty good, I would say. Maybe there's a better way. I'm not really sure, but that's just kind of how that's kind of what worked for me. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the beginning of anything, you just got to do what you can with what you got at that time. And then as time goes
right,
on, of course, you just fine tune your process. And, depending on, like if you like technology, of course, there's technology that can help a lot with these things.
right, right.
Yeah. I mean, there's various methods. I think these days we live in a fortunate time to have kind of AI automation. There's all kinds of stuff you can use that does make your life a lot easier for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
With lead generation, I don't even have a salesperson anymore with my seafood business.
Wow.
Because yeah, it's you can automate a lot of the outreach. Like it's quite time consuming. Like what you just said. Now it's
Well,
time
it's
consuming.
very time consuming, and not to mention gas and insurance and salary.
Yeah, and I'm just
Payrolls
yeah, exactly. All
payrolls
these costs
expensive.
combined, and also the admin time to log the person, remember this, log this down.
Oh, yeah,
It's a very time consuming way of doing it, and yeah, that's I mean, in the past that's how we used to do it. Fortunately, like I said, there are good systems. I'll talk to you about it after the podcast if you want, but
for sure.
there's some really good methods of reaching out to customers that cut a lot of this kind of time. And
Yeah. Well, yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
it's definitely
that's the
worth
name of
getting.
the game. It's like, especially as a small business owner, like you said, resources are kind of limited. So, if there's a way you can kind of make up some hours and get some of that back so you can focus on other things, it's super
Well,
helpful. Yeah.
talk about a tragedy. So 3 years ago, I almost went bankrupt for the second time coming out of COVID, and all of a
Wow.
sudden I had to get rid of half my team, otherwise the business wasn't going to survive. And I got rid of half of my team, and of course, I still had a business to run, and I had to learn very quickly how to automate the shit out of my business. And fortunately, it was in the time when AI was coming through and automation. So
Right.
I learned very, very, I wouldn't say quickly, it's taken me 3 years, but, fortunately, this kind of hardship, this is what I was saying earlier about hardships. It's unfortunately the best way to learn sometimes, right?
Right.
I've managed to keep my head count the same, but our business has grown just simply by implementing systems everywhere, from the
Right.
ordering process to the dispatch, logistics, lead generation, even your own processes inside how you do your stock counts, ordering, literally everything. Every part of my business has been automated. I've got just one part-time administrator now that works for me, as far as office work, right? Everything else is manual stuff that you can't automate yet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, I
Yeah.
didn't want to automate the preparation side. That's one thing I wanted to keep true. So we still hand pack
Right.
everything because I didn't want to go down the machinery route for me, because we
Right.
deal with premium seafood, and I just feel that the minute you automate that,
Right.
then you just become like everyone else that supplies, big retail, and we really wanted to kind of keep that. So I thought automate the office side of things and keep that integrity within the production team.
Have there been any massive setbacks trying to automate a lot of your processes and stuff?
The beginning is always the most daunting part. I remember before we implemented this system that we still use today, it was a big decision because at the time we used various different spreadsheets, systems, ordering, invoice software, accounting software. But we created this thing that kind of worked, right? Even though it was a
Right.
pain in the ass and it was very flawed. At least it was the devil we knew, right? So better the devil you know, they say.
Yeah.
So I was reluctant at the time, for obvious reasons, to adopt this new system that could do everything for us, but it was the best decision I could have made. So I think having that leap of faith into systems is absolutely the way to go, because the pain of implementing, when I look back now, is nothing in compared to the daily pain
Right.
of
Right.
not
Right.
having implemented it. You know what I mean? Like the amount of time we saved and the errors we reduced, and the workforce, how happy they are now because everything's just simple. Like now we get orders in, for example, through, could be voicemail, could be a text, or could be an email, and it automatically converted into a purchase order in our system. That system automatically directs the order to the production team. The team automatically pack the orders according to that production record. Invoices get raised automatically, delivery routes, everything is done, everything's automated. So it just takes that pressure off. And because there's no human element, there's no, or much less errors. So it just kind of just allows everybody to like thrive in their roles. You know, nobody likes this bullshit admin. Who likes admin? You know what I mean? No one likes
Yeah,
admin.
dude, I know, man. I got a list of things that I'm playing catch up on that I'm like, it's never ending, man. It is never ending.
So there are solutions is the answer because, you know, the only reason I got time to do podcasts these days, and I set up a consultancy, in fact, to actually help these businesses adapt these things because I realized that actually what I'd learned is quite unique in that all these other food businesses, you know, came to me in that time asking me for help because they could see how automated things were, right? And I just managed to learn a lot about how to implement this stuff, not just for me, but for other people. And that's been a really nice part of my journey now in my career is the seafood is running itself. And now I can actually genuinely help other businesses do the same.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice, man. I strongly suggest to look at automation, absolutely, because the earlier you adopt it, the better. Because the problem is once you start scaling and then you do have more complicated systems, more complicated structure, you know, you have more people that you're employed with the old structure, it's of course harder to then implement it, you know, as time goes on. But if you implement it now in the beginning, then it just makes building on it much easier. You know what I mean?
Right,
If you
right,
lay those
right.
foundations now, it just means that when you do scale, you're going to need less people to achieve the same results, but it also means that the output will be significantly higher because you've already done the legwork. So it's,
Right.
yeah, it's a good, it's fun actually. I love it. I love technology, man. That's my thing. I love it. I love.
Well, I don't think AI is going anywhere, and it's obviously just like anything. There's not one cure that fits all, but I think it's something that is obviously a powerful tool, and I think if used wisely and correctly, it can do what you're saying for sure. Like I see the value in AI. It's I'd say definitely more so an educational thing, and at the point of where like it's one of those things where it's like, I understand you don't have time not to do this,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm also
exactly.
having a hard time finding time
Yeah, absolutely.
just even like do laundry, you know what I mean? So like for
Yeah,
me to like sit down and like think about, all right, how do I educate myself on this AI?
yeah.
I'm just kind of like, it's like, I'm like, all right, well, I'll use AI to help write this thing, or I use AI to ask questions. So I'm not really using it as efficiently as it can be. I'm dabbling, but that's just based off of it's
That's
just
most
like
people.
a
Most
education.
people are like that, man. You just use it as and when, and it's like anything. Until you actually learn of what the potential is and how to use it, you know, of course, it's normal to be like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
digressing a little bit there, but I wanted to ask you as well. So, I mean, you know, we talked a lot about your pains and your challenges, right, from the startup to now. But there's obviously something that's driving you, and there's, you know, what's your kind of like, what's been your biggest achievement? What is it that drives you to continue with this journey through the pain and the challenges that you have? You know, what's been a
Yeah, I think
significant moment like where you've looked back or were you looking forward to?
yeah, I think it's I think there's a lot of things that drive me. I think the biggest thing is just proving to myself, that I can do it. I also want to look back at my life and be proud of what I've done, and I also just want to I guess like inspire other people. I feel like things don't I think this is probably um my strength, and is that like a lot of things, especially growing up, didn't come easy. So I really had to work hard, whether it's school, sports, whatever. And at the time, it really sucked. And honestly, I hate that my superhero strength is just grinding because it kills me. But it is, that's what gets me to what I need to do. And I may not be the smartest, I may not be the most educated or the best cider maker, whatever. I got a lot of deficiencies and things I can get better at. But I've learned at a young age to grind because like I kind of had to make up for not being good at school, or not being the most athletic or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I'd probably say I'm most proud of the fact that this sounds, it's kind of simple, but I haven't quit. I think, and that doesn't And that doesn't mean I haven't thought about it. I mean, you definitely have doubt. That's just human nature. And especially when you're doing things you've never done before, you know. And so I think for me, I'm most proud of just the fact that I've set out to do this, and I've gotten to where I'm at, and we're not close to where I want to be, and we're still dealing with a lot of small business things that early stage business problems that, you know, trying to just get to the break even point and start to see like profitability, you know, which we're not far from, but it just takes time, you know. Yeah, so I don't know, it just drives me because I just want to see, I just want to prove to myself that I can do it. And I also want to create a lifestyle, you know, that's, you know, I guess allows me to do something I care about a lot, but also feel like I'm being compensated the way I feel like I should be compensated, but also creating an environment for people to where they like to come to work, where they can thrive, where they can grow. I really want to use my platform to help the community around me, whether that's volunteering or donating cider to a cause. You know, I don't know. I really want to kind of just put my stamp on things and kind of just more use it's more than just cider, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
to create something that really helps impacts like the people that come work for me, it impacts their life in a positive way and kind of creates this environment and this culture of, hey, we can do this, let's work together, let's grow, let's build something special, you know. And I just envision what it can look like, and I think that's what keeps me going, because there's a lot of times where you're kind of in it and you're just like not where you want to be, and it's really hard. And but I think having a clear vision and goal and having perspective, you know, really kind of keeps me grounded and kind of helps me, keeps my eye on the prize. You know, anytime I feel discouraged or down or like I'm facing a big challenge, I just remind myself, one, of how far I've come, two, all the things I've overcome, and then three, you know, I kind of just paint a clear picture. Well, Adam, would you rather be a business owner pursuing your dreams, or would you rather be working a 9 to 5 for someone else? And when I paint it like that, it makes the decision really clear for me. You know, it's like, well, I want to work for myself and I want to grow something and create something special and unique. So yeah, but it's a lot of pep talks. I give myself a lot of pep talks, and you know, sometimes listening to, you know, it's like going to the gym, man. When you're not feeling motivated, sometimes you just gotta put put that banger on, man, and just get you
Absolutely,
motivated.
man.
So you know, sometimes I need to put on that workout music and that workout playlist, you know. So yeah, that's kind of yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm most proud of, is just I haven't quit, I'd say, and that I'm still going. And yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think you sell yourself short, Adam. I mean, you know, the fact that you've created this baby by yourself, you've raised 400K already in the beginning. You're already dealing with 200 clients, which in turn, you know, do you ever do that calculation? You know, one day I remember when, I don't know, it was a few years ago, I was feeling a bit kind of lost in a way in my business, like where to go, blah, blah. And then like I started working out just how many people must be eating like the seafood that we produce, right? So I started working out how much we're dishing out every week. And I calculated how many tens of thousands of people are eating our products every single
Right.
week. You know, when you break it down like that, you know, that to me was like a very strong sense of achievement. And it kind of re, 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 redrew my kind of motivation and idea of what I've achieved, because I think oftentimes as business owners and entrepreneurs, we're quite hard on ourselves. We're always looking at the road ahead and where we need to get to and where we're not at yet. But seldom do we actually stop for a second and look back and think, shit, you know what? I've done a lot. You know, you got yourself, well, for in your case, you got 2 vans, you've already got an employee, 200 different businesses to deliver to. You know, you're managing all kinds of complex things that no one ever taught you how to do. You've done it yourself. You know, it's not easy. You're managing logistics, you're doing sales, you're doing your own admin. You've got all these shareholders that you have reporting to. You know, it's a lot going on, man. And it's only two of you. That's incredible. I think you should be really proud, man. I think you've done a great job. It's very
Thank
inspiring.
you. Thank you.
And
I appreciate that.
that's what the podcast is all about as well. It's just to kind of bring home this kind of reality of running a business is tough, and the food industry is very tough and unforgiving. And no one's in it to get rich, because those that start the business to get rich, they're not going to last very long. What really drives a food business forward, I think, is the grit and this kind of capacity or ability to grind, to the levels that we do to achieve the results that we achieve. And over time, that's what will make these businesses last.
Right.
So yeah, and I think that's something that's commendable.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you saying all that. And I want to just commend you too. I mean, going through a couple almost bankruptcies or filing for bankruptcy or what, I can't remember. Did you file or were you close?
No, I was close to. I was close
Okay.
to. Like,
But
it
I
was.
mean, man, even making it through COVID, I saw a lot of businesses
Yeah,
close,
exactly.
and it was a hard time, man, and it tested a lot of people in a way that we've never been tested before. I mean, like, what are you supposed to
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
when there's a, when COVID happens? It's like there's no game plan for that,
No, yeah, there's no
So
rule book for that. There's no
yeah,
SOP for
so
that.
it's just yeah, I commend you,
Yeah,
man. I mean,
yeah,
that's and being in business as long as you have and being willing to innovate and to reinvent yourself, I think also is important because a lot of people get kind of stuck in their ways, especially over time. And as you know, that things are always evolving and we need to adapt, So
absolutely.
I don't know. I commend you as well, man. And thanks for
Thanks, man.
having me
Appreciate
on.
it.
Thanks for having me on the podcast, and thanks for doing this.
No,
I
no
think
problem.
it's really valuable to share people's stories.
Absolutely. Well, look, Adam, that's it for today's episode. A huge thank you for, you and Offset Cider Works for joining me on this very sharing and honest look at what it takes to build a truly original brand. I really appreciate what you've done. It's inspiring, and I really hope it inspires others as well. And for all you listeners out there, please, if you like what you here, subscribe and follow, and make sure you share the love and pass this on to other people that may well enjoy it. And that's it for this episode. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you, Adam.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.